For this afternoon's show, I'm going to turn things around a little bit backwards from normal. I'm going to deal with the tariffs and some other things regarding the economy first. And then in the second half, I will talk about the Tesla news and my analysis of some of that. I just wanted to make sure that those of you who don't have time for the whole thing will get what I think is by far the most important. I'm sure all of you are anxiously awaiting for what happens on Monday with regard to the tariffs, with regard to whether there's enough good news in the tariff world to cause the market to bounce back up on Monday. And of course, Tesla at this point might go up no matter what the market decides to do. I'm not 100% sure that the overall macro on the market will continue to impact Tesla. It hasn't impacted it as much as it normally would, and I think it might be reaching very close to some bottoms. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at what I've got here for you. Let me begin with this story from hedge fund, famous, very successful hedge fund manager Bill Ackman. He says that VD Hansen on X, VD Hansen, he says, makes a compelling case for the real Donald Trump's tariff strategy, but he gets one issue incorrect. He describes the Trump tariffs as reciprocal and proportional to those other nations have assessed on us. In actuality, says Bill Ackman, the Trump tariffs were set at levels substantially above, in many cases at a multiple of the counterparty's country's tariff levels. Okay, so let's stop there for just a second. The Trump administration, and I'm not knocking Bill here, I'm just suggesting this is not as nuanced as it could be. The Trump administration, Besson, all these guys made it very, very clear that these were not just tariffs. This took into consideration non-tariff barriers. And so they were trying to come up with some kind of a methodology for achieving a number that represented all of the things that were keeping our products out of their country. I argue that the poster that they came up with was nonsense. It was not good. It was not well presented. It was not presented. The aftermath of that was not done well when people asked about those numbers. But other than that, yes, I think the number in almost every country would be well above the actual tariff rate they're charging us because of all the other ways that they can try to keep the products out. So then he says, initially, this is the part I really like. He says, initially, the market responded favorably, up more than 1% when Trump referred to reciprocal tariffs in his Rose Garden speech. It was only when he put up a chart showing the actual tariffs that the markets plunged. So if it had just been reciprocal tariffs, which might end up being exactly what happens, then the market will be very happy. So could we see a completely V-shaped a change on Monday or Tuesday or whenever as we see how these tariffs really work out? I don't think it'll go all the way back up to all-time highs. I'm suggesting to some, have talked about this on X, that I think we could easily go back to the more or less 10% down on the S&P where we started last week. He says we can derive, and then things could change from there. We could still go back back into our seesaw as we approach later this year when all the results of this effort start to be obvious. We can divine, he goes on to say, we can divine from this response that the market participants are supportive of the administration using tariffs as a tool, number one, that's good, okay, to lower the asymmetrical tariffs of our trading partners, but are highly concerned with tariff levels set well in excess of the corresponding country's levels. So why did Trump take this approach? Well, he says the answer goes back to the art of the deal. Trump's negotiating style is to ask for the moon and then settle for something in between. He doesn't mention the other aspect of creating chaos, but many people have mentioned that, including me, over and over. I started talking about the chaos months ago. You can go back and look at my videos and you'll see I was talking about chaos. Not everybody agreed with me that we would have chaos. I said we will have chaos. It has worked well for him in the past, so he is using the same approach here. The market's response is due to the fear that if the strategy fails and the tariffs stay in place, they will plunge our economy into a recession. We'll deal with that in a minute. And we don't need to wait for failure, as it doesn't take long for a high degree of uncertainty to cause economic activity to slow. 100% right. Absolutely right. But it doesn't take long for that uncertainty to be resolved and for people to go, okay, I'm going to go spend again. Press reports today have said that all deals are now on hold. This is not surprising. Capitalism is a confidence game. Uncertainty is the enemy of business confidence. The good news is that the number of countries have already approached the negotiating table to make tariff deals. I'll have a list for you in a minute, which suggests that Trump's strategy is beginning to work. Whether it's enough to settle markets next week is unknowable, but we will find out soon. The idea that Wall Street and investors are opposed to the president's efforts to bring back our industrial base by leveling the tariff playing field is false. Our trading partners have taken advantage just for decades after tariffs were no longer needed to help them rebuild their economies after World War II. And I might say, apparently we wanted to help China also for some unknown reason, but we wanted to help China become a mega power, become a dominant power. I don't know that anybody planned that. Anyway, the markets is simply responding to Trump's shock and awe. There you go, negotiating strategy, and factoring in some probability that it will fail. Got to put that possibility in there, or otherwise lead to an extended period of uncertainty that could sink us into the recession all by itself. The market decline has been compounded by losses incurred at the so-called pod shops and other highly levered market participants that have been forced to liquidate their positions as markets have declined. I don't know what a pod shop is. Maybe you could let me know in the comments below. Stocks of even the best companies are now trading at the cheapest valuations we've seen since COVID. If the president makes continued, stocks of even the best companies are, I'd have to double check that. I don't think that's true because we went up 20% 2 years in a row, and we've only come down 20%. So no, I don't think that's possible. If the president makes continued progress on tariff deals, uncertainty will be reduced. The market will begin to recover. As more countries come to the table, those that have held out are reciprocated with higher tariffs will have growing concerns about being left behind. This should cause more countries to negotiate deals until we reach a tipping point where it's clear that the strategy will succeed. And when that happens, the stocks will soar. Again, I think they soar back to the 10% down. Trump's strategy is not without risk, but I wouldn't bet against him. I wouldn't bet against him, he says. What does that sound like? The more that markets support the president and his strategy, the higher the probability that he succeeds. So a stable hand on the trading wheel is a patriotic one. An important characteristic of a great leader is a willingness to change course when the facts change and when the initial strategy is not working. We have seen Trump do this before. 2 days in, however, it is much too early to form a view about the tariff strategy. And 2 months in, it's way too soon to form an opinion about the overall strategy, except what we've seen at the border, a complete success at the border. What we've seen with Doge, the amazing success that Doge is having. It just goes on and on. Trump cares enormously about our economy. You heard Cathie would say that as well. If you watched her show, we talked about that this morning this afternoon with Larry Goldberg. If you haven't watched that yet, many thousands of you have. As usual, that is a highly performing show. If you want to see something that really talks about the details of what's going on in the economy right now, go back and check that out. I'll leave a card in a minute. We have seen Trump do this before. And then he says, Trump cares. Oh, I'm sorry, you did all that already. If it needs to be tweaked or changed, I expect he will make the necessary changes based on the early read. His strategy, though, appears to be working. Let's help him succeed. It's the least we can do. Then later on this morning, he added this. I would not be surprised to wake up Monday with an announcement from the president that he has postponed the implementation of all the tariffs to give him time to finish making the deals. President Trump has gotten the world's and our trading partners' attention and elevated the importance of resolving an unfair tariff regime that has harmed American workers and decimated our industrial base over many decades. This is a critically important issue that needs to be resolved, and we finally has a president committed to getting this done. I can't emphasize this enough. People talk about him being fearless, about him being, standing up and saying win, win, win when he had been shot, talking about courage. Well, this is the kind of courage that real leadership requires. The ability to go in and say, you know what? I know you're going to be mad at me for a minute, but this is the right thing to do. All right, here's a list of the countries, according to Grok. And I had to ask Grok to do this on Deep Think because the first time out, he didn't get it very good, but use Deep Think. If you have something that's important, Always put it on deep think. Vietnam, facing high tariffs, they've expressed intent to negotiate. South Korea seeking to minimize tariff impacts through talks. Thailand, actively pursuing negotiations. Japan, encouraging in discussions to mitigate the tariff consequences. European Union, member states, as a bloc, EU companies are ready to negotiate with key members like Germany and France involved. India, in talks to mitigate tariff impacts, especially on pharmaceuticals. Yeah, I bet they're pretty nervous about that. Canada, negotiating to address recent tariff impositions and maintain trade relations. We saw Tom Ford, is that right? The premier of Ottawa, of Toronto, no, of Ottawa, come out the other day and very, very much on the bended knee. Mexico is engaging in discussions leading to temporary tariff pauses. Norway seeking negotiations to address tariff impact on exports. Taiwan planning to negotiate over tariffs in particular on semiconductors. Israel taking steps like removing tariffs on U.S. goods already to negotiate better terms. Brazil open to negotiating, aiming to avoid trade war escalation. Switzerland seeking talks to reduce imposed tariffs, expressing concern over rates. South Africa aiming for a new trade deal to ensure long-term certainty. The only way South Africa is going to get a deal is if they remove their anti-white nonsense, killing farmers. Horrible. They're going to have to do something. I don't think Trump's going to give them a deal at all. New Zealand likely to negotiate given the tariff impact on exports. And then this from the United Kingdom, breaking today. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer claims globalization is done and he gets why Trump is pushing tariffs. What? Oh my goodness. So that is a complete capitulation. Cathie Wood says this later in the day. We are in the eye of a storm, but if President Trump cares about his legacy, which we know he does, or the midterm election campaign season, which will start this fall, then the last leg of this rolling recession is giving him and the Fed more degrees of freedom to pivot. This is important. The Fed has time to pivot. The president has time to pivot. All right, now this is a couple of just additional ideas here. Number one, keep in mind, this is what's leading Scott Bessent, Secretary of the Treasurer. This is how he's making his decisions. Number one, he said today he wants a strong dollar. He's going to do everything he can to keep the dollar strong. If it dips a little bit, that's going to happen from time to time, but he will be doing what he needs to do to keep the dollar strong. He also says this is what he wants you to remember. He wants you to remember the 3 threes. And that would be he wants 3 million barrels of oil. The United States to produce 3 million barrels per day of oil, more than they're producing now. And that will get prices down. That'll get oil prices down. It gets everything across the board down. And it gives us complete energy independence. He wants a less than 3% deficit. I hope it's a lot less, but he'd be happy with a less than 3% deficit. And then he needs a 3% real GDP increase. That means 3% plus inflation. So if inflation's at 2, we need a 5% GDP increase. That's what he's shooting for. If he gets all 3 of those, then we will have an economy. Well, those 3 things alone, plus certainly if you add in the Doge cuts and you also put in the Trump gold card, the green card, the $5 million green card, probably get to a place where we can cut the IRS for everybody making less than 150,000, and maybe even better than that. All right, this is Randy Kirk. Let's see. I think that's now we're going to still talk about the Tesla side of things. This is Randy Kirk. I sold 2 bottle openers. Stephen K. and North State Brokers both bought 1 each. Thank you very much for your orders. Right now, I've only got camouflage in stock. It'll probably take me a week to get more stainless steel in stock. But if you would like a camouflage, order up. I've got a bunch of those left. Okay. Of course, we have heard the famous words of Warren Buffett quoting his mentor, Ben Graham, on Mr. Market. In the short term, the market is a voting machine. In the long term, it is a weighing machine. Thus, however folks are voting about U.S. equities today, the value of the underlying potential future cash flow of all of those companies will always win in the end. So we can have a 20% reduction in the S&P, a 30% reduction in the NASDAQ, a 17% reduction in the Dow Jones, doesn't change the underlying values of the companies at all. Now, it may be an indication of people thinking, oh, their earnings or their cash flow in the future won't be as great, therefore we need to reduce it. But you know what also went down? Also went down was interest rates by 25 basis points over the last week. That means that the valuations of those companies would go up because of the discount rate. All right. There is not now, nor has there ever been in history, a company with more upside potential cash flow than Tesla. So whatever the price is today, whatever it is on the voting machine, however people are voting for Tesla right now, it will eventually be weighed. And since the products that will usher in those amazing results are basically finished, we're talking about Optimus robots coming off the production line now. We're talking about cybercabs that will be coming off the production line shortly, even though it will be mass produced in 2026. They will start to be having some come off the production line well before that. Everything at the semi-truck making small numbers now will be in production by the end of the year, probably well before the end of the year, quite frankly. But everything that they're doing, with a couple of exceptions, there's a couple of long-term things that might take longer, but everything else is in production within the next 12 months at mass scale. Let's start with the Optimus TAM. The TAM for Optimus is all human labor. And that's what Elon says, not me. It sounds ridiculous, right, on the face of it. But let me know in the comments what jobs you think that Optimus will not be able to do. If you watch this channel enough, or if you've watched it for a long time, you know that one of my things that I do as what I consider to be a futurist, and all that means is I imagine the future. That's what else can a futurist do? They can't actually tell you the future. All they can do is imagine the possibilities. And so I've talked to you about the kind of jobs that I think that humans will have in the future. I think there'll be plenty of jobs, but I think the jobs are going to be not the things that robots can't do. They'll be things where we will want to see humans doing them, interact with humans doing them. We won't want robots to be in those positions. I'm not going to go to a baseball game. There's not a chance in the world I'm going to a baseball game where all the players are robots. Why would I do that? That'd be silly. All right. And there's lots of other examples like that. So Elon puts the market valuation for Optimus at 25 trillion. That is probably a low number because eventually if they're making 100 million of these a year, it's probably going to be worth more than 25 trillion, but 25 trillion would be enough. I'd be okay with that. Okay, and then robo-taxi and cybercab. Elon and Cathie Wood and many other smart members of this Tesla community, both on YouTube and X.com, put the valuation for this transportation as a service business at $7 trillion. Then the one that nobody talks about except Brian, Wang, and me, I mean, really, seriously, go ahead. Tell me who else is talking about semi-truck. Brian Wang thinks it'll be 4 million a year. I think it'll be 1 million a year, but semi-truck and autonomous semi-truck, I think that somebody is going to replace every single semi-truck in the world with electric motor-driven semi-trucks, and they will all be autonomous. Now, does that take 5 years? Does that take 10 years? Of course. But trucks, they don't last as long as cars do. They have to be replaced. So about 4 million are built each year. And I think eventually Tesla will have 1 million of that 4 million. But their value per mile is so much higher than the cars. So for now, I would assume maybe a $4 trillion value for autonomous semi-trucks. Oh yeah, $4 trillion. In other words, bigger than Apple Computer. Energy storage. Elon has said, we're now beginning to see the evidence, but nobody talks about it, that this will be bigger than auto. My sense all along is that this will be the biggest company on the planet, just by itself, just the energy storage, the power walls and megapacks. Together, this will be the largest company, larger than Apple, except for the other Tesla products that we've just talked about, and for other Elon Musk enterprises, like possibly Neuralink, possibly Starlink, maybe even SpaceX itself. Without Starlink, And maybe as yes, oh, X.com and X, I mean XAI and X together now, that might be the largest company on the planet. And believe it or not, even the Boring Company, Warren, Warren, yeah, what's it? Redlick, Warren Redlick has often said he thinks that will be the largest of all the companies. I just don't see it passing the total labor market that Optimus will do, and probably not passing Robotaxi, but Warren could be right. It is clear to me that Tesla will sell vehicles. It's not clear to me that Tesla will sell vehicles that are not used as robotaxis in the future. So the auto and light truck division might be inconsequential. They might still make a few cars and a few trucks for people to buy for their own use, but it's going to be this big compared to the rest of the business. The insurance business will be an internal product only. It's going to go away completely except for internal use, because you'll be insuring all those Tesla vehicles that are out there, the fleet vehicles, as well as the ones that are being most. I'm assuming it'll be part of the package. You'll get the insurance when you're putting your car out as a robotaxi. So that's what it'll be for. So it's not going to be really a big moneymaker. Vehicle services, keeping cars repaired and whatnot, that will be an internal business. And the used vehicle business will go away. The cars will be driven until they're toast and until nobody needs them or wants them. Future businesses that are nascent now, or that are unlikely to become even a 1 trillion valuation in the future, there's a few of those. Dojo is a possibility. It could become a really big business, but I'm not expecting it. Retail and wholesale electricity sales, now that could become a massive business, but I'm not expecting it. Charging stations, the charging stations and Megapack, what do you want to call it? The arbitrage from those, it could be a really significant business. I don't think it gets to 1 trillion in valuation. And then there's things like HVAC. Maybe that becomes a big deal. Anyway, unless you're a trader, then if you're trading the stock, if you're trading Tesla, then you have to ask yourself a question every day about ups and downs and how it's going to go next week or next month. If you're not a trader, if you are an investor, the only question you need to ask yourself each day as the stock gets buffeted around more than any other stock on the market is, do I, as a holder, do I see a likelihood, a very high likelihood, that the future in the next 5 or 10 years, depending on what your time horizon is do I believe it's going to happen? Do I believe these things are going to happen? If yes, enjoy the ride. It's fun to watch the stock go up and down. Emotionally, maybe, troubling from time to time. But if you don't believe that long term it's going to be weighed on the weighing machine, you might want to find a company to invest in that you fully believe the prospects for a great return. I mean, I would take a company like NVIDIA, who just a few months ago was at 150 and now is at 97. That would be a good one. Why don't you try that guy? How about Google? I think Google was at 200 and it's now at 150. You know what I'm saying? All the major companies go through their ups and downs. There's no guarantees when it comes to trading. What's the number one thing, the best thing you can ever do in trading is to buy low. Right now might be that time. And that's not investing advice. That is wisdom from having lived many, 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 many years. Not as long as Larry. Earlier this morning, we had Cern Basher on in the morning. Then we had Larry Goldberg on in the afternoon. You want to see both of those? I'll put both cards up. I'm sorry, Cern Basher wasn't on this morning. It was Brian Wang that was on this morning. So Brian and Larry, but the Larry one was of course, the Cathie Wood deal, but both of them are fantastic. And then tomorrow we will have Cern Basher first thing in the morning. Then in the middle of the day, when I say middle of the day, probably around 4 o'clock, we'll have my regular Monday morning program where we talk about expectations for next week. What could go wrong next week? And then Brian Wang will finish up the week, if you consider Sunday to be the end of the week, or he'll be helping us to start the week at around 7:45, something like that. Might be a little earlier on Sunday night. Okay, I think that's all I have for you, except I put those cards up for you. I want to thank you very much for being, for being regular on the program. If you've never subscribed, that'd be very, very cool. If you like this video, or even any of my videos, hit the like button just because you like me. And joining Patreon, joining as a member of YouTube, or potentially buying yourself a Cybertruck bottle opener. If you buy a stainless one, it'll just take you an extra week to get it. If you want a camouflage one, it'll go out right away. $25 for one. Can we say it? Of course. $40 for two, $65 for three, $85 for four, $100 for five, and then from then on it's $20 a piece. If you live outside the United States, you need to add another $20 for freight. And then if you live like in faraway places like Japan, Australia, etc., you need to add about, let's call it $30 for freight. I think that'll cover it. Okay, that's all I got for you. It's been great talking to you.